Welcome to this week's edition of the Belau Report. I'm Jane Belau. Our guest this week is fittingly the mayor of Rochester, the first woman mayor of the city, right?
Right.
And you have another first that you want to talk about, that a statue for equality.
Yeah, so this past year we were approached by two artists, Gilly and Mark, out of Australia, who have a program to increase the number of women in statues in the world. And what they found in their research is less than 5% of statues are of women. And during our phone conversation, she said as they were looking at the UK, for instance, there are more statues of goats than there are of women. And they wanted to change that. So they started a program where they will fund half the price of the statue, and we will, as a community, fund the other half, and then we have to ship it to Rochester. But throughout this, through this invitation, we worked with the Arts and Cultural Trust here in Rochester, and their director is Judy Hickey. And Judy has spearheaded a project where they gathered women in our community to do kind of roundtable discussions, look into many women in our history, and ultimately they selected Amelia Hatfield Witherstein. And she was the very first elected woman leader in the city of Rochester, and she was elected to the school board, and she was elected in 1911, and that was 10 years before women even had the right to vote in this country. And she served as president of the school board for over a dozen years. She also was the first woman to serve on a jury in the city, in Olmsted County, actually. And the beauty of Amelia, not only being a strong woman leader, is that she still has family, the Withers family, who is from Rochester and still lives here today. So we're able to honor someone with very deep, important roots, a woman in Rochester. So we'll be, hopefully in the next 12 to 18 months, bringing a statue to Rochester, and we're thinking about Central Park down by the Heritage House as a location. Okay,
and what will the statue look like?
It will look like Amelia. It'll be a life-size statue of Amelia Witherstein. The artists have been sent some pictures, and they are going to give us some possible prints of what that will look like. We haven't seen them yet. They're working on that right now. So this year we'll select a picture that they've designed and bring it to Rochester over the course of the next year or so.
Now, Witherstein were the Withers, right?
Yes, John.
Who are the founders of the local newspaper.
The Post Bulletin, indeed, before the Post Bulletin. Yes, the original newspaper. Yeah.
So she's from that family.
She is. She is. Very powerful woman, ran many organizations in this community for many, many years. I'm really excited over the next year or so to be able to share more about her history, more about what she did for Rochester and Olmsted County over the course of her lifetime. It was pretty substantial.
Okay. And you're also sponsoring a trip to Germany, our sister city.
We are. We have reinvigorated the Sister Cities program. The City Council will be voting on that at their next meeting to just reinstate something that Chuck Hazama, Mayor Hazama, started many, many years ago. And he established 5 sister cities. I believe all of them during Mayor Hazama's lifetime, if not, or certainly his lifetime, but his tenure. Some of them may have come after, but they've been around for many, many years. And with the pandemic, you know, having kind of dampened any visits and relationships during that time as we were focused on our own community and our wellness, we are reinvigorating that. So the council will vote on a resolution or to reestablish the Sister City program. We have community members that are volunteering, and we are going to visit Germany in September of next year, if we can, you know, get folks to sign up, to go visit our Moosburg, which is the sister city that Mayor Hazama started the relationship with. And I know Ardell Brady took a delegation over, you know, 10 or so years ago, and we're going to go back and visit Moosburg. And also we have a newer relationship that's not a formal sister city relationship, but a very close one with Munster, Germany. And we'll be visiting a couple cities in between as we drive from one to the other, smaller cities. But we'll spend several days in Moosburg and several days in Munster, really focusing on culture, arts, and energy and environment, which Germany's taking a lead on across the world. So that will be in September from the kind of the 26th, 25th, 20th, I think we'll leave the 25th and come back on October 2nd. So if folks are interested in that, we have brochures, which we'll be sharing with folks over the course of the next few months and gaining interest and hopefully taking a delegation to visit our sister cities. And we have more. We have 5 sister cities across the country: South Korea, China, Kathmandu, so South Korea, China, Japan, Akita, Japan.
Wow.
So those were all established by Mayor Hazama and subsequent mayors, and those relationships have been maintained but have fallen off a little. So we want to reinvigorate that.
Okay. Now, Rochester. What is the standout issue that you addressed in 2023?
Oh my goodness. Well, you know, the mayor's office has sometimes a slightly different focus, but I, from the mayor's office, have been working on, of course, we're America's City for Health, so health, hunger, and nutrition has been a personal focus of mine. I've been working with some of our local nonprofits. But as a city, we've been focused really on energy, so the geothermal heat and cooling system that we've put in City Hall, and we're expanding that out to the Mayo Civic Center, the library, and eventually a whole district. So we've been working on that, and that's well underway in 2023. Certainly the local option sales tax passed, and so from the city's perspective, you know, having that and some of our bonding projects approved was a big deal. And the focus on homelessness and housing. We have really, really focused on that, trying to get some housing projects up, and there'll be more to come on that, because even as we discuss these, it takes years between planning, building, and moving, and we have housing projects that have come on board. The county continues to be a great partner on low-income housing and affordable housing, and that work continues into the coming year and into the many years into the future.
And that will continue in 2024, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And with the local option sales tax and some money from that focused on roads, focused on affordable and housing, focused on flood control, and focused on the sports complex. You know, we have to lay out a plan really for how we're going to bring in those funds and then make them work for the community, because that was the whole point of renewing that local option sales tax. And I think some people have thought the money, once you vote, comes in immediately. It does not. It won't even take effect. The new local option sales tax will not even take effect until 2024. And then once the funds start coming in, they come in incrementally over 24 years. So we will not see an immediate change unless the city council chooses to front some money or do some you know, bonding or loans to get a project started early. Those are all, now that it's passed, the planning for that will have to happen in this next year as well.
So that, you would say, is the issue for the city in 2024?
I would
or
say
is that just one?
That's just one issue, but it is. It really does all play into some things I'll be talking about and announcing at my State of the City on the 10th, which is, how does a city decide which projects are priority with all the growth that is happening? How do we align the projects between the private sector and the public sector so we have as much coordination and as little disruption as possible, right? So that we've got to work on that. And how do we make certain that we look to the future and that the projects and the direction that we're heading really is in the best interest of the community and the residents who live here, and how do we involve them in that? So I'll be talking about that at my State of the City on January 10th.
Okay. When you look at the number 2 issue, what will it be?
Oh, There's not it's not an easy 1, 2, 3. It really is about our growth and development. And all of it, whether it be housing or fixing up roads or working on infrastructure, all of that is related to the growth that we have. I mean, we're in an exciting time. Mayo's announcement really was fabulous for our community, but I think surprised people and maybe shocked a few people at the size of a $5 billion investment in this community. It's a lot of growth, a lot of development, a lot of transformational healthcare, but also transformation for our city, what it looks like, how will we look in the future. We have to do a lot of thinking and planning for that this next year.
So where do you see that funding coming from?
Well, we have been applying for state grants. We have applied for federal grants. One example was 2 years ago, we received funding for the 6th Street Bridge. But of course, we were approved for funding, but then there's a whole process where you have to plan the project. So we're in the planning phase of what will the bridge look like, and then after that's all approved, then comes the building stage. And that's true of all of our projects. When we win bonding projects at the state, there's a whole long process that has to happen to make those become a reality. And so we have a lot of work. If anything, I worry that we are understaffed to do the work that we are being, as a growing city, being awarded. But I know our staff have been really working hard to lay out Gantt charts about what are we doing when and how can we coordinate projects. That's really something that we found over the years. If we don't work together, say RPU with Public Works, with Mayo Clinic, or with a private developer, we only want to dig into the ground once. So how can we spend the time up front planning so that we have the least disruption and the most progress made with every development we do? And that's really got to be a goal for the city.
So how will you do it?
Well, I have my own ideas, which I'll announce on January 10th about what I think we should be doing with the community. But the city staff really have to work closely together. And I think, you know, early when I first became mayor, there were a few projects where I thought, we're having to tear up that same road twice because Public Utilities was working on a project and Public Works was. And we identified that as a real problem. And so now the staff are very cognizant. They're working very well with the county, with different departments like RPU and Public Works to make sure that we coordinate better and that we don't have to tear up the same road or the same corner time and again, that we do it all at once. And that'll be very vital as we move forward with another project. And I don't want to number them priority-wise, but in this growth and development, our bus rapid transit line will be coming on board as soon as we get the final federal approval. And that will mean 2nd Street, all the way from out by Country Club Manor, out toward the Country Club, all the way through to the Civic Center and beyond, around the corner there. That's a whole new ball game for the city with bus rapid transit. So, you know, we have to build the infrastructure, we have to get that ready, and we hope to have that ready by, I believe it's 2026.
You know, Mayo is having this unbounded development, and they made this big gift to the school.
They did.
Of $10 million when the referendum failed.
Thank heavens.
And
bless Mayo Clinic for caring enough about our kids and the future of this city, understanding how important an investment in our children is. I literally teared up when I heard the news that they were going to help out the schools. I was really quite shocked by the response of the voters. I don't know if they didn't understand how impactful a $10 million cut can be after years of other cuts. It's devastating to a school district. So I was thrilled and just am so grateful for Mayo Clinic really understanding the importance of education and our children's future, and that they were willing to help out. And it's a stopgap, right? It's just going to help out for this current time. There will still need to be cuts because the funding isn't keeping up with the needs, but it was just such a huge gift to the children in this community and the community as a whole in our future.
And what will they do that's comparable for the private sector schools?
Well, those are private. That's a whole separate issue. And Mayo Clinic is a private entity. They give out many millions and millions of dollars every year to nonprofits and other entities in the community. They make those decisions internally. My guess is they help out in other ways that we maybe aren't quite as public as that announcement was. But you know, I think all of us know Mayo Clinic has a community giving program that really does support this community in a huge way every single year. This announcement just became more public because of the devastation of the loss of the referendum and the amount of cuts and the announcement about what would have to happen in order for the schools to continue. So it made headlines.
And the superintendent says he's coming back next year for operating funds?
Well, yes, this was a one-time stopgap. They have financial needs. They will be asking the community once again. The number may be different. I don't know. I don't know the details about the needs of the school district right now. I served on the school board 20-some years ago, but I don't any longer, and it'll be up to the school board and the superintendent. But this is a stopgap measure, and will keep them from having to make some of the drastic cuts that they were talking about making, that they had made public after the failed referendum, but they still need a referendum. So they will still be coming back to the voters, as I understand it. Shouldn't speak on their behalf, but that's what I understand, in order to have a balanced approach to education and plan for a growing city and growing needs of our students. So, you know, stay tuned, I think, is the message there.
The county is addressing some of these problems, including the homelessness problem.
They've been a wonderful partner.
And do you think that it's going to require equal contributions from the city?
I think it's going to require equal dedication to the issue. This is not just, we can't just say it's all on the county, because when things occur, crises like a growing homeless population, which is happening all over the country, when it happens in your community, your city, the city has to deal with the consequences of that. Even if you say, well, you know, affordable housing or homelessness housing is a county problem, it isn't just a county problem, it's a city and county problem. So we do, there is a coordinated effort, there are nonprofits involved. I pulled together a task force that met, and we established an overflow shelter. Again, thanks to funding from Mayo Clinic, who stepped up to say they would help, and our very generous partners, the Salvation Army, city and county were at the table, and Catholic Charities, who said we will make sure that if we identify a location for the overflow, that we'll have the funds and the staffing to do that. So that was put in place in late November. Well, we were meeting in September through November, and it was put in place for December 1st. So we do have overflow shelter should our warming shelter not have enough room for our homeless. And as you know, the city council's been talking about being a little stricter about their camping ordinance, and that'll come up for, I think they voted on moving ahead. Now they have to come up and put the ordinance in place. And that'll be on the table here a little bit this next year, or in this year, 2024, in January and February. So we'll be hearing and talking more about that in the future. But it is partnerships. It is the city, the county, and our nonprofits, including service providers like The Landing and others, are at the table trying to help us serve people in need.
Will the youth center be enough for the youth?
Which youth center?
The one that's authorized by the sales tax.
Oh, well, that is not a youth center. That is a sports complex.
Okay.
I'm sure some of our youth sports groups will use it, but I think it's meant to be hopefully a community asset, but also to bring competitions in on the weekends. But as I said, we have to collect the taxes over the next 24 years and then make a decision about how we phase in the growth of that project, weighing it with the importance of housing, affordable housing, workforce housing, roads, which we know many of our roads in town need fix up, and we hate to keep putting that on the taxpayers. So this, on the sales tax, allows us to not put it on property tax and spreads it out over visitors and the people that come to our town, which is a plus, as well as flood control, which, so it's those 4 projects have to be balanced, and the city council will have to prioritize what do we need to work on first. And I would say, I think, and this is me speaking, I'm not speaking on behalf of the city council, but housing and the homeless situation have been constantly a priority for the 5 years I've been mayor. And we have been working on it. We have had housing open up, but we need more. And we're growing, and Mayo Clinic's announcement means we'll grow even more, even bigger, and we'll probably grow a little faster. So that would be a priority for me, is that housing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an exciting time.
The schools needed that contribution. And they're really working to try and make the schools operate in a responsible way and provide employment opportunities for our young people. Don't you think?
Absolutely. I think, you know, the governmental agencies, the city, the county, and the school district, since I've been mayor, and when President Carlson came on as board chair, we were committed to building those relationships. So whether it be our monthly meetings where the leaders meet or leaders and staff meet, or whether it be groups like Olmsted County Justice Coalition, which continues to meet, again, bringing various people to the table. And our, it's called the Riverbend Agreement, but it is an agreement between the sheriff and the police and fire on how they run dispatch and work together. That's all been worked on this past year. Agreements have been agreed to take effect this year. So I think the growing positive partnerships between the 3 governmental agencies is really fun to see, and really it's good and right for this community.
And do you think there's enough resources for all of these things?
I think that's part of the struggle we have as a city, is how can we manage our funds in the most frugal way possible that still meets the needs of our residents. And people have very high expectations for this community. As you know, we have a theater, and we have Rochester Civic Music, which has become Rochester Public Music. We have always, as a community, valued the arts. How do we have trails and parks and amenities like the new Soldiers Field that will open up this next summer, with a brand new swimming pool, a water park, a playground, and a lazy river that this community has been crying for. So in order to meet all those needs, in order to be a livable community that everyone wants, you know, is a challenge. And how do we do it in a responsible, financially responsible way? And that's what we've been working on.
It almost says we need to look at our federal government and how it's expending its money.
We have been trying our darndest since I've been mayor, and probably before, but taking advantage of those pockets of money that the federal government has opened up in really an unprecedented way for cities. In the past, money often went to the states. And then the states would have a structure put in place, and then they would bring that money and say, we have grants for cities. But it costs a lot to build all these different levels of government. So the federal government has done far more in the last few years to give money directly to cities. It started during the pandemic. It continues on today, where we will be, for instance, able to apply for monies for our energy and environmental concerns. We can apply, we've just applied for a grant for EV charging stations. The geothermal district heat and energy that we're putting in, we're able to get 50% tax credits back for the first time for the city to be able to do that kind of work. So we are doing our best to make sure that Rochester, Minnesota gets back those taxes that we pay, and that they come back into the city of Rochester for the infrastructure and the needs of our residents. And we do apply for grants like for parks and recreation or forestry. We apply for grants for roads. We apply for grants as we're able and as appropriate in order to do the work that we need to do here.
These are all in addition to transportation systems that work for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have city funding through our state and federal and local funds, fees, state taxes, property taxes that we run the city on. And about 65% of those funds that we're given go to public safety, to our fire, to our police, to, in the county's instance, the sheriff, but two things that keep people safe. It's very people intensive. I'm sure you saw the headlines just this week when we had our first big ice storm. Police during their shifts that evening had 85 calls for accidents. At least that was the headline on the news, and I know it was substantial. I talked to some of the officers. That's a lot for a small police department in a small town to manage, right? We have to have the people in order to go to the calls and prioritize them. That's part of what dispatch does. Which are the most serious? Where do we put our funds to get the best service for our community? And law enforcement, fire, public safety are the things that we focus most of our state funds and property taxes on.
What about the Adopt a Drain program?
Yeah, we got an award for that. That was really exciting. We've got several awards. I'll be announcing some, including the efforts with Move with the Mayor. So the Adopt a Drain, I think we were 6th in the country, the 6th highest ranked city in the country on the Adopt a Drain program. And that's great for our clean water. It's great for our sewer systems. So hopefully folks will continue to adopt drains and maybe get us up to the #1 spot. That was exciting news. And on the Move with the Mayor, as we look at the CDC guidelines, it's called the Step It Up Roadmap. What are the things that you're doing in your community to keep it healthy and strong? And we did very well this year and reached the top level for our participation in policy and activity, keeping people active in our community and having a healthy environment. So we get a number of awards, and you'll be seeing more of that, I'm sure, this coming year.
As mayor, what one thing would you like to be remembered for?
Oh, heavens. I don't know. I still have a few years left, so we'll keep working on it. I really think, unfortunately, part of my legacy will be living through COVID. That did take the first several years of my term. Hopefully, we came through, if you will, COVID in good shape, but it was a very difficult time for everyone, for businesses, for our community. So I hope I'm known as someone who has supported our small businesses and worked with the coalition. We built that coalition this last year. One of the things I'm proud of, that the city participated in the Downtown Business Partnership and really worked hard to say, what can we listen to our businesses, listen to the residents, listen to citizens that live in our community, and took their feedback on what can we do to make downtown rebound faster and stronger coming out of the pandemic. So we have done that, and we'll continue to do it.
How can our viewers help you help the city?
Well, I would say, Jane, that's a great question. One of the things that happened during the pandemic, which was kind of the downside of my time here, is people spend more time at home. They stayed out of the community, and we have worked really hard to get people to change that habit and get back out and visit, support our businesses, be more active, be more social. I would say our nonprofits really could use some support. Our clubs have seen a decrease in membership during the pandemic, and it has not rebounded as well as it should. And government can't and shouldn't do everything for communities. Our democracy is founded on government, yes, but also a strong nonprofit sector. That's what makes this country so much different than other countries around the world, is our strong nonprofit sector. And that people have stepped away from clubs a little bit. things have changed, and people, we have to adjust to those changes, and the clubs are trying to do that. But funding for nonprofits, membership and volunteerism, please, please get back out, volunteer in the community, join nonprofits, do the things that make our democracy function, and don't expect government to do it all. Because frankly, I don't think people want government to do it all, but they forget that if government isn't doing it, nonprofits are the place that picks up the slack, and they need the support, whether it be manpower or funding, of members of the community they live in. So that would be my plea. I've done a little video for Channel 1 because we know there had been an increase in visits to the food shelf, and they need volunteers.
Yep.
So if folks, that was one that I've done, but many, many of our clubs and nonprofits are in that same shape. So please volunteer.
All right, you heard the mayor, and she urges you to participate in your local nonprofit, and as well as a number of these community projects. And thank you, Mayor, for your invitation, and hopefully it works out.
Absolutely, and Happy New Year to you. We look forward to a wonderful 2024.
Thank you. All right, thank you, our viewers, for being with us this week and every week, and we'll be back next week, same time, same channel. Have a very good week and a very good night.